Hello YouTube, Film Buff 06 here with a review of, in my opinion, an underrated Disney animated classic, hugely underrated, and that is 1981's The Fox and the Hound, based on the book by Daniel P. Mannix. Now I rewatched this film last night for the first time in goodness knows how long, because I remember as a kid watching this film when I owned the VHS, and loving it as a kid. So this is the first time that, even now as a 21-year-old, this is the first time I have seen it since I was a kid. So it's just a sense of nostalgia creeping in. The story of this film is of this young fox cub named Todd who is left in like a garden fence by his mother, who subsequently is killed by a mysterious hunter, and he gets found by this kind old lady named Widow Tweed, who takes him in and raises him as her own. Unfortunately, she lives next door to this hunter named Amos Slade, who owns two dogs, one named Chief and the other one being a bloodhound pup named Copper, who is destined to become a professional hunting dog when he grows up. Eventually, Todd and Copper meet, and they become the very best of friends, without realizing that way down the line, when they grow up, they are supposed to become the worst of enemies. And that's all I can give away about the plot of this film. Now I have two fun facts for you about the production of this movie. Fun fact number one is that this was the last film that the original Nine Old Men worked on. You know, the Nine Old Men, ranging from the Nine Old Men consisting of the likes of Wolfgang Reitherman, who is producer of this film, also Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, Larry Clemens, who is head of the story team, and after this film they retired, but not without passing the baton to the newest generation of animators that consisted of John Lasseter, who would go on to become CEO of Pixar, John Musker and Ron Clements and Glenn Keane, and Randy Cartwright, who would go on to work on some of the Disney Renaissance classics that consist of the likes of Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Lion King, etc. Tim Burton, who of course went on to become a successful Hollywood director in his own right. Brad Bird, who of course would go on to direct The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, and Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol. Henry Selick, who would go on to make The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, and also Don Bluth, who by this point was starting to get the feeling that Disney's work was becoming stale, and it wasn't becoming as great as it once was. So he decided to leave Disney and took 11 other animators with him to form his own studio, which of course made such classics that were kind of Disney-like in nature, like The Secret of Nim, All Dogs Go to Heaven, An American Tail, Land Before Time, etc. And you know, this was sort of a big change for Disney by this point. Now, the second fun fact is sort of interesting, because the character of Chief, when Chief gets run over by the train, he was originally slated to die the same as he does in the book. But Disney changed this. Because they did not want to have another on-screen death, and so they modified that part of the story so that Chief would just get wounded by the incident and survive, in the same style as they did Trusty in Lady and the Tramp, that he just gets wounded by this incident, and the next scene we see him, he is limping about with this bandaged leg. Now I have to say that this is a very, very good film, although one that nobody rarely talks about. Yeah, this is a very, very good film. It has loads, loads of like sort of familiar ideas that I think we've seen many times, like the importance and values of friendship and loyalty, and how life and fate takes advantage of this, and tries to break apart that friendship and break apart that friendship forever, and the idea of prejudice, the idea that Amos and Amos and Chief are judging Todd by the fact that he is a fox, and that foxes need to be killed and skinned, and Copper is the one that is torn between either listening to his master or staying true to his to the fox he knows is his best friend. I have to say my favourite character in this is I have to say is Big Mama, because I love hearing Pearl Bailey's voice. Because I love hearing Pearl Bailey's voice. It is entertaining. It is sort of entertaining to hear her voicing this character, and Big Mama in a way is sort of the mediator of the story, almost like Rafiki in The Lion King. Yeah, almost like Rafiki in The Lion King. The fact that she teaches Todd about the values of about the meanings of life, and about the meanings of life, and of love, and you know, stuff like that. And there are some great moments in this film. I especially like the comic relief scenes with Dinky and Boomer trying to capture and eat Squeaks, the caterpillar, and each and every scene with those two trying to catch this caterpillar are just hilarious. Are just hilarious. Now I know that are just hilarious. There's also the climax when Todd and Copper are battling this giant bear that sounds like the roars of the bear sound like the ones used by the wolf in Disney's Peter and the Wolf, and that has been, I think, lauded as one of the greatest sequences in animation history, and I agree with that. It had tension, it had suspense, it had the sense of threat and danger, it had drama, and I would put it on par with the climax of Sleeping Beauty. I would put it almost on par with the climax of Sleeping Beauty, when Prince Philip is battling Maleficent as the dragon. I mean, it is that great a scene. Now I know this film has some cutesy scenes in it that otherwise could have dragged the film down, but like the nostalgia critic says, I think those cutesy scenes were meant to drag, and the film uses that cutesiness to its own advantage. Also the scene where Widow Tweed has to leave Todd behind, and where she drops him off at the game preserve is really heartbreaking. I mean, it almost brings a tear to your eye. Almost brings a tear to your eye, and now, if I were to give this film a rating, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's not quite up there with some of the best Disney animated films of the past, even though the animation is traditionally hand drawn, like the likes of Dumbo and Snow White and Pinocchio. Even and despite that, it's not quite up there with some of the best Disney animated features of the past, but it's kind of a nice blueprint for what was going to be the rising future of Disney animation prior to the of Disney animation, hence the Disney Renaissance. Even though it's not one of the best Disney animated films, it is one of the most underrated, I feel. And I do suggest you check this film out. It has that Disney vibe to it. It is funny at times. It's entertaining, quite entertaining at times, dramatic at times, humorous at times. Funny at times as well, and I think you'll have a really, really good time watching this film. If you are a true Disney fan, then go and check this movie out. It's worth your time. And I have to finish this review right there. So feel free to leave a comment on the section below and tell me your opinions on The Fox and the Hound. Did you what memories do you have of this film? Of this film as a kid, as a kid. Plus, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until my next video, whatever it may be, please take care, everyone, and goodbye.